All right, everyone. Welcome to the third installment of the Monoxide Podcast with my co-host, Sean Bryant. Say hi, Sean.
Hey, guys.
Perfect. He's got a hey, guys in there right off the bat. All right, so I want to introduce our guest here. Our guest, Trevor Skarie, also known as Shred Design. There's a co at the end, right?
There is
so,
indeed.
I've always wondered, is it Shred Design or Shred Design Co?
You can say it either way,
Either
but the full name is Shred Design Co.
You're not offended either way. I love
Not
to hear
offended.
it. So, Trevor is a man of many talents. I actually went to high school with him. You know, he was always somebody I've looked up to. But more importantly, he is a graphic designer who's made his way in the automotive world in more ways than one. You know, right now he's a graphic designer working at Tin Pros in addition to a lot of his freelance work. He did a lot of stuff for Whiplash, for Venom Rally, and Monoxide. I'm wearing the hoodie today, you know, that he designed. He's wearing his own hoodie that he designed. So a man of many talents. Some other things that he's currently working on and or worked on is some stuff that's on Banging Gears, the Transformers wrap on JWP's car.
Got the Drivify wrap as well.
The Drivify wrap. So, I mean, a lot of different things, and I'm really excited to jump into it. First off, let's talk Banging Gears. What the heck is your involvement on that?
It kind of fell into my lap. I mean, because I run the print shop over at Tint Pros and Platinum Auto Wraps, Jacob from GPP is always there, hanging out, you know, using the facility, getting to know the staff and the people. So me being in the position of working in the print shop, Jacob came to me and said, hey, we have this really big need for all of these graphics for this TV show that we're about to shoot. We're leaving literally in 2 weeks. So he came up to me and he let me know what his needs were. We went back and forth on some print proofs, and we got a whole load of stuff for him. So all the Banging Gear graphics that you see on the walls were all printed through the Platinum Auto Wrap shop. We also printed all of the windshield eyebrows. So we did over 100 of those, just getting ready for this TV show.
Dude, I'm stoked. And me and Sean talked about it last week, and I went back and listened to it. And I was clueless on like half the points, because then I went on the website. I'm like, that's wrong. So I literally like cut out some of the dumb stuff I said. And you know, one thing is like I try not to edit at all. Okay. But when I say something that's just so absurdly wrong, like I said, Damon Fryer or DDE was gonna be there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a lie. I was not right on that. So, but dude, you did a ton of work. I mean, like when I found out that like so many people from Minnesota were going, and then it eventually clicked that it looks like Jacob was kind of like the kingpin there.
Yep, he's leading the operation for sure. The whole Golden Peaks Productions team is kind of the kingpin for this whole operation.
And they're filming the whole thing, and they got a bunch of other like people around the nation. I know Jason's over there.
Yeah, they got a nice big crew, so I think they're going to get the best coverage that they can get for this show, and I cannot wait to see it.
Yeah, I think they just saw, you know, Whiplash Rally, and there it's like, man, we should copy those guys.
Clearly.
But no, I'm really excited for them to be out there, and I'd love to have him on the podcast at some point after the fact, Mr.
Absolutely.
Hollywood over there. But okay, and then 100 banners. So you said there's 84 cars there, right?
Roughly so, yeah. When they came to me with their needs, they said they estimated roughly 84 cars. So we, of course, printed some extras in case something were to happen, any of those windshield banners or some surprise cars were to show up.
Okay.
Yeah, but I knew about Banging Gears before Jacob had even approached me, saying that he needed signage for it, because JWP actually had a project 2 weeks before that for me. We actually ended up wrapping his red NSX with this sweet Transformers wrap.
Yeah, and you've seen the Transformers wrap, right?
Yeah, I've seen it. So how do you even go about designing something like that for a car? Like, how do you make that all flow and work?
Yeah, it's kind of a big undertaking sometimes, but usually I just start in 2 dimensions, and I work one side, one face at a time, and then I start to find ways to kind of seam it and piece it together when we're talking like moving over the front fenders or even around the rear. So I try to design with the mindset that there's going to be some complex curves around the vehicle, so I try to make those areas a little simpler to make the install a lot easier, and so that way everything can line up nicely.
All right, cool. And so, you know, that's a one piece, all one piece. So you have to like print that onto a wrap.
Yep. Yeah, so I usually have to panel it out. Luckily, cars have natural seams in them, so I'm able to kind of break my panels up by those natural seams that are on the vehicle. But yeah, just kind of one piece at a time. So I usually like to start with the side profile, whether the driver's side or the passenger side. I kind of get that style figured out, and then I start to bring it up onto the top of the car, and then bring it down to the front and the rear. That's
Okay.
usually kind of my standard process. And then there's always times when you go back and adjust this on the side, adjust this on the back to kind of help everything start to flow. But it's really like a long development. You start where you finish is a lot different than where you started.
So I've seen some of these installs, not just from like, Tin Pros or Platinum, but like, just other people and just the difficulties of it, because you have to get everything to line up, especially with a complex printed graphic. There's so many things that can go wrong. So I guess, do you do like a lot of reprints? Like, did you like when you're doing a print?
Not
like that?
often.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot better from when I first started. So it's not often that we need a reprint. Most of the time, the only reason we would need to reprint something is a fault of mine, which would be
Okay.
I didn't line something up, or something is too long or too short. That would be a case where I need to
Okay.
reprint this door panel or reprint this fender. Every once in a great while, like a really long great while, somebody will tear a piece, or a
Right.
piece just kind of starts to fail on them, so we just simply need a new piece for something like that.
So it's very rarely like an installer error then.
Yeah, especially with the team that I'm working with over at Platinum Auto Wraps, like those guys are the best installers I've ever seen.
They've done a
we
good
go
job.
we go all the way to making sure that this wrap is as seamless and as durable as possible. We'll take off the front and rear bumpers, and we'll take off those door handles to make sure that the tuck on that wrap goes where it needs to go, so that way it is durable for as long as possible.
Oh yeah, totally. They did the wrap on the Durango Hellcat.
Yeah.
I got it done, I think, just a week or two before you got hired.
It's crazy, the timing.
And yeah, so they did an amazing job. It's still doing amazing. I've been driving it like all winter, and there's just about like nothing wrong with it. Like no peeling, no like major damages. So yeah, they do an amazing job, and it looks flawless.
Yeah, these guys are
it looks
incredible.
like a paint job.
Right?
People can't even tell it's a wrap.
Yeah, for real. Like the vinyl wraps nowadays are just exploding with all the different styles, all the different colors, and just the technology that they've gotten to. I think people are just much more excited about something like that as opposed to just repainting your car. I think
Right.
a really big benefit to getting your car wrapped, even if it's just like a single color change, is it protects the original color paint on that vehicle. So in 3, 4, 5 years, you decide you don't want that color anymore, or you decide you want to sell the vehicle, just pull that wrap right off, and then you got the original color perfectly intact.
Assuming it was installed by somebody that's competent like Platinum, because I don't know, like I saw a
Precisely.
TikTok I sent to Eric last week, and they were taking wrap off, and it was ripping the paint off.
Oh,
Yeah.
yikes.
Adjust this, by the way.
Yeah, sometimes
There we go. You're good. You're and seen.
I am a little bit. Yeah, sometimes there's some installers that like to use some extra glue or extra adhesive
scuff
to
the surface.
yeah to try and quote like help the wrap not fail in those certain areas. But more often than not, that wrap is able to hold up in those spots, and so when they're adding those extra additives and adhesives and stuff, it starts to be a little detrimental to possibly the paint, or even just trying to uninstall that wrap.
Right, and that's typically something that Platinum wouldn't really do.
No, we
Yeah.
don't do anything like that.
Yeah, they like to go in there raw. That makes sense. Yeah, no
Pretty much, yeah.
helpers.
We like it to be as clean as possible.
I love to hear that. So how long have you been there now?
I've been there for about 7, 8 months now.
Okay, and you started like part time, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So it kind of just fell into my lap last summer, right
Yeah.
about the June time. You actually tagged me in a Facebook post by Tian, one of the owners, and he was like, "Hey, I need a graphic designer." And I was looking for an extra opportunity. I was looking for some part-time work, and this just kind of fell into my lap. So I reached out to Tian. I said, "Hey, I'm interested. I'm looking for some work. I've done a lot of automotive work in the past." He ended up giving me a call and was like, "Hey, I don't want to call anybody else, so let's see if we can make this work." I ended up showing up the next week on that Monday. They gave me a tour of the shop and said, "Let's get to it."
Yeah, nice. Yeah, Tien is a really cool guy. I remember I just got the car wrapped, and I went back there because they wanted to do one final inspection, and I had a question for him. I said, like, how do I clean my wrap? and Tien was there, and he had just gotten in a shipment of sprays and waxes, and he was like, "Oh, just use this," and just gave me some free product. I'm like, "Oh, for real? Like, thanks for the hookup. Like, that's awesome, man. Thank you."
Yeah, this guy's so generous. Both Tien and Triet, those guys are the most generous and the most selfless bosses that I've ever worked for. Like, honestly, they run a great operation over at Tin Pros and Platinum Auto Wraps.
Love to hear it. What are you doing freelance-wise now?
Freelance-wise, I'm still doing a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I know you have like projects for me every once in a while.
Right, yeah. My freelance world outside of the automotive industry usually likes to err on the music side of things. So I do a ton of work in the music industry. So I actually am developing an album packaging and album release campaign for one of the projects that I'm in right now. I play in a punk band called In Lieu. We are just about to release a new record, and I am beyond thrilled to share it with everybody. So I've had the opportunity to work really closely with my bandmates and develop an album packaging and an album campaign that I think is really gonna shock some people.
Cool. Where can we find that?
It's gonna be on Spotify. Our first single actually drops on February 9th.
Nice. Okay. Are you playing any live shows?
Yes, we're playing all the time. So if you just follow us on Instagram at @inlieu_band, you'll see all of our gig updates.
I just realized I had my phone sitting right on the power button the whole time. So at any point it could have just shut off. So
That's brilliant.
all right, but back to I think you told me something about In Lieu or whatever, like almost a year ago, like you were working with them or doing like some shows with them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I've been playing with them for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
So I've gotten really tight with that gang, and we make some really fun music, just really loud, really aggressive punk music.
Yeah, I think you sent it to me at one point or something from a show or something. And
I dig it. We've always got lots of demos and lots of show stuff that I like to send
I'm
your way.
excited, dude. Yeah, I mean, this will probably air before that, but shoot it over to me and then we can blast it out. Because the one thing I've always loved about Trevor is that him and I have, for the most part, a decent alignment in music taste. Sometimes it might be a little bit off, but for the most part, like we line up, punk, metal, whatever.
Right around the same veins. So it's easy to get along when you like the same music. That's what I find.
Yeah, so that helps a ton. No, I'm really happy that you're doing a lot of music stuff. How's Muse doing? So Muse is like your magazine supporting like local bands, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started a magazine about 8 months ago now. I call it Muse Mag. Muse is actually an acronym that stands for Minnesota Underground Stories and Experiences. And my biggest goal with Muse was to really celebrate all that Minnesota music had to offer. Not just the new songs coming out or the new album that came out by the one big band that everybody seems to know, but I really want to celebrate all the underground people, the people who aren't necessarily getting their voices heard. I want to show off the photographers. I want to show off the writers, the album reviewers, like everything that goes into writing, releasing a record, and being a part of the live music scene. Like, there's so many awesome things happening, and I just can't stand to see it washed away in 4 seconds on Instagram. So having a physical format such as Muse Mag really lets you dive into it and just experience it in a different light.
Yeah, that's awesome, because Minneapolis is a huge musical hub.
Oh yeah, it's insane how much music we have here in Minneapolis, especially when you compare it to some other cities, especially just in the Midwest.
Yeah, because we have the famous First Ave and the Armory and the Caboose. Like you could probably ask somebody like what their favorite spot is, and it's going to be one of those three. But there are more underground spots. Are there any places that you like to go to?
Yeah, there's so many underground spots that are popping up left and right. My recent favorite is a place called House of Pain. Okay. I highly recommend it. It is such a great environment.
Is that I'm just curious, the name, does it come from the Steve Vai song by chance or no?
It might. I haven't asked the owner of the house, but that's what they decided to call it.
Yeah, I might have actually mispronounced the song title or whatever. It's the one where the Steve Vai song where the screaming starts off the thing, like some lady giving birth or whatever is what it sounds like. It's brutal. I should have went to that concert. I regret that. But no, that's awesome, dude. I just love everything you've done with that. And 8 months ago, like I remember, like it was just an interesting time for you to see everything that you were working on. So everything with Tin Pros and Muse and everything, to see it like 8 months down the line. Like we fast forward now, and It's awesome, dude.
Yeah, even just for myself to look back that long ago, you know, like just starting these projects or just stepping into Platinum for the first time, like it's crazy. It's just crazy to look back.
So what's on the horizon? Let's start with the Platinum side of things, like on your day job.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the big projects that I'm looking forward to right now at Platinum, we are working with another Drivify vehicle. We're working with a 2017 GTR.
Is that the gray one?
I believe it is white right now.
Okay.
Or yeah, it's gray right now, but we are going to be wrapping it white.
Cool.
And we're going to be doing a very similar livery style to that Audi R8 that we did. So it's kind of going to be like a sister wrap, and they're going to be like a yin and yang kind of idea. So I'm really excited to have both vehicles completed and right next to each other.
Funny story about that. So my buddy Edis came into town and he rented that R8, and I'm pretty sure that the GTR was out on rental. I think we ran into them in Maple Grove.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's winter. Who's driving a gray GTR? It looked exactly like the same one. It had to be the rental one.
Yeah.
So I think they honked or like laughed or saw it or whatever. It was just too funny.
Yeah, if you look really closely, there's a Drivify sticker
I think
in
I saw
the
that
quarter
too,
window.
Yeah, it's just too funny. And that R8 sounds like a bat out of hell. Like, it's a V8. Sure, it's a slug. Like, my GTI is faster than it, which is awesome. But that was a bucket list item. But it looks kick-ass, and more importantly, the soundtrack, right? Like, if somebody's renting a car, they want to have fun. No, there's nothing on this planet faster than a rental car.
Yeah, for real. Because you don't care if it breaks.
Exactly. So that's really awesome. So white wrap on that bad boy. Okay. What's next?
Yeah. Been working on a lot of smaller wraps over at Platinum. Lots of individuals coming in looking for some personalization to their vehicles. So it's really fun to just kind of work one-on-one with a lot of different people over a span of just 1 week.
Right.
You know, I like designing and ideating different wrap styles with different companies, different individuals with their personal vehicles. I think it's just fun to be able to be in the center of all these different kinds of projects.
What's your favorite project that you've done so far besides the Transformer wrap?
That's a tough one.
Was it like maybe on a certain car, or maybe just like the art style, something that just really like spoke to you?
Man, now you got me thinking back. I work on so many projects, my mind is just going blank right now.
Oh, you got that many cool cars that you work on?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I think one of the coolest wrap projects that I've been a part of was outfitting the entire Whiplash catalog of cars for that first rally. It's not Platinum related, but to be able to be a part of that, I think of all the wrap projects that I've been a part of, to see all those cars wrapped with all these awesome Whiplash graphics, I think was the biggest payoff for me.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, well, we actually have a nice piece of Sean's livery downstairs taped to the floor. You know, it's like one of the doves that I had you do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was by accident when we were installing. I'm like, oh, oops, left a bird on the floor. It's like, all right, whatever, we'll leave it there. I think it's still down there.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's forever stuck to the floor.
It's a nice little reminder.
No, with Whiplash, I went full send. I mean, I was like, Trevor, let's send this thing to the moon, right? Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to blow Venom Rally out of the water, and that I did.
Indeed.
Everybody that went enjoyed the hell out of the rally. You know it yourself, Sean, but it's a bummer that we couldn't continue it. But at the same time, it's like I did it once, and I did it well enough to say that I've done it. And everything that went into that, from the hoodie that you're wearing to all the promo stuff that we did, it's a year of work. I mean, when you're running a rally, you know, you're the first person I talk to. Right?
Yeah,
like
I remember that phone call too.
Trevor's always the first person to talk to when there's a project, because you have to develop the brand and the look and all that.
Yeah, there's more than just colors and shapes. You know, you really
Right.
got to dive into the marketing behind it and just like the whole thought process.
Yeah, and you know, it's strange, right? And actually, you could touch on marketing as well, because it's another area of expertise for you. But it's weird when I talk to people who are trying to start a business or think they're starting a business, and it's like they don't think about the brand or the identity. They're just thinking about either making a quick buck, or more importantly, they're just like, I want to play business owner. There's so much that goes into it, and some people overthink it. Sometimes you have to just jump into it. But there's something to be said about that brand development phase. So I guess you can kind of tell me and Sean here, like, what's your process? My favorite thing is like you always ask for like 3 songs or whatever to describe something or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I guess one thing that I do want to say on branding, one thing that I have come to learn is that basically your brand is what people say about you behind your back. It's nothing that you can throw out there and people are just going to accept. You know, your brand is essentially what people are saying behind your back. So you can take steps towards guiding people in a certain direction of how they feel about your brand. But ultimately it's up to the consumer about what your quote brand is. But for me, I like to dive into what this brand is by kind of identifying who you are as a person, as the business owner, or if it's a group of people. So one of my little unique pieces that I use to help really understand a person and their kind of attitude is to ask them for, you know, like roughly 3 song suggestions of like songs that they feel best represents their new company or themselves or their car. And me being such a big music guy, I can really dissect that and get a lot more information than just a 5-minute conversation that you and I can have, you know, because there's going to be so many questions left on the table that I didn't even think of until afterwards, that this song can kind of lead me towards that direction of really understanding you.
Yeah, that's really awesome. It's like music is the doorway to everyone's soul.
Yeah, a little bit. I kind of look at it that way.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, like even like if you were to give me 3 songs for Whiplash, I'm listening to those 3 songs while I'm working on your materials. I have found that playing music that has a similar attitude towards the visual direction that you're going for, it starts to subconsciously like guide your decision making. Because as a designer, we're making millions of micro decisions every second. So to be able to have that kind of in the back of our minds is just kind of helping with that decision making.
I love to hear it. I haven't had an like this because I just have so many different questions. My brain's moving faster than like my mouth is. But, you know, so I guess do you remember what the 3 songs were for Whiplash by chance? I'm sure some sort of Metallica or Megadeth was in there.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a Metallica song, definitely Megadeth.
You just had you have a Harris playlist at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. It was a lot of like 80s hair metal, which I think was pretty spot on for you.
I hope that comes back one day. Like the hair. Like I see like every once in a while on TikTok.
Metal never died, buddy.
No, but I'm saying the look, man. Like when you look at like chicks from the 80s. Like,
man, you haven't been doing enough metal shows here in Minneapolis. The hair is there, and it is glorious.
Yeah, I should definitely. I
could probably go then.
Yeah, there you go. You already got the hair.
Yeah, we'll give you a bass guitar. You just go streaking on stage or something.
No, thank you. What instrument do you play?
I play the bass primarily.
Oh, you play the bass. Okay.
Yep. So I play bass in I think like 7 different projects right now. I keep losing track because I'm always playing in all these different side projects.
Yeah, and just helping people out and all that.
But most of them I'm starting with my buddies. So
Okay.
I just love making music for the sake of making music. And so every time I have a buddy of mine that says, hey, I want to start a project or I want to write a record, I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it.
You know, he wrote the intro for the one that plays at the beginning of the podcast.
No, I didn't know that.
That's all him. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that was fun.
yeah, I gave him. I think one of the songs that I gave you was "NIB" by Black Sabbath. So that was one of them. That was like the bass at the beginning. So
That's stoner metal for sure.
So I started with that, and then I think. Whatever. I think there's maybe some, again, Megadeth inspiration. That's just like, the last 4 years, it's been a big one for me.
Oh, yeah. I was leaning heavy on the Megadeth, on the Metallica, and, of course, the Black Sabbath for that intro.
There's just something special to be said for it. So I'm trying to think which direction I want to take this, because you've done so many projects. I guess what's next for you on the music side of things? Because you say you have 7 projects. What's next there?
I suppose now would be a good time to plug my record label.
I wish that was going on.
Me and my close buddy started a record label back in 2020. Me and Tim King. We called it Dirty Laundry Records, and we have been going strong for about 2 years now. Actually, a little bit over 2 years because there was so much behind the scenes of just getting everything ready.
Yeah.
But we just announced a new band to the label. They go by the name of Blue Driver. They're a 4-piece, and they do a really awesome job of blending kind of a quirkiness feeling along with teenage angst and rage and just kind of adolescence. I highly recommend listening to their music if you guys like 1950s rockabilly with a twist of punk in there. I think those guys, that's probably the best way to kind of sum them up at the moment. But we're working very closely with them on their next record with Dirty Laundry Records. So that's going to be coming out probably late summer, if I were to guess.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of the biggest one that I'm really looking forward to right now. So my buddy TK is the master of all audio things in Dirty Laundry Records. So he's going to be heading up that operation of getting that record recorded with them. And then as soon as that's all finished up, I'll be taking over on the album campaign.
Okay,
Love to
cool.
hear.
So where do you guys record? Like in a garage, or you got an actual studio?
Yeah, we've got a home studio. We've put thousands of dollars into this studio, to be honest. Or Tim's put thousands of dollars into this studio, just building his dream. So he lives in Mankato right now. So that's where our recording studio is located. He's got an excellent live room and an excellent control room to really just make anything happen, and I mean anything happen. This dude is so good at what he does. You know, he can make anybody sound great.
Yeah, I got to go hit him up then.
Honestly, yeah, like just the way that he does his process, he takes a lot of inspiration from old school punk recordings and just how people from like Alice in Chains used to record their records, just all these little weird ways that people would capture sound or capture a particular tone of their guitar. Like he likes to dive into concepts like that to be able to make the recordings that he does.
I wish I could remember what band it was. You might actually know this, but I remember watching like an in-depth video or whatever, where it was like the way the specific drum sound. I think it might have been Immigrant's song actually, like the way like you wanted to get the sound to be recorded, like to get a specific. I don't know, just like the audio acoustics and where like all
The
these
nuances are everything.
Yeah.
There's so many little nuances, and so I think it's really fun from an audio engineer perspective to dive into something like that and, you know, find your own ways of capturing those sounds.
It's so unique, and like I told you about. I texted you like a week or two ago how I got like a proper set of headphones, which I will eventually have some for everybody on the podcast, just so we can all hear each other better and not talk over each other and all that fun stuff. But you know, when I plug it into my amp, it's so much different to hear like the minor changes from string to string or whatever. It may be like, you know, the adjustments on the amp or the guitar, just all these little things, and finding out like I think my understanding of how sound works has gotten so much better in the last month ever since I got this podcast gear.
Yeah, it's amazing how much good headphones can change a music experience for you. You know, going from those old school Apple headphones to like a real set of over-ear headphones is like night and day. And once you really start to listen to the music and you start to pick up on those little nuances, that's when it like really grabs you.
Yeah, I've been becoming a little bit of an audiophile and kind of taking in like a little bit more consideration on how I listen to things. So getting rid of, the IEBs or the in-ear buds, like the Apple AirPods.
Yeah.
And then getting like a decent set of headphones that go over your ears, and they just, deliver a much cleaner sound profile to what you're listening to.
Yeah, it like transports you to a new place if you're able to isolate yourself with that music. I think just having those over-the-ear headphones that isolates all the outside noise is a really easy way to like transport yourself into that song. But I think another cool thing that we can segue into, speaking about music and just diving into songs, is I love to make playlists for people to drive to.
I was going to ask you about that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I ended up doing a playlist for both Venom Rally and Whiplash Rally for each of the 3 days that those events went on. And I had a lot of fun kind of stylizing each of those 3 days towards that experience that those drivers are going to be having on that particular road.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like a QR code, and then it pulled up the playlist for that day.
Yep.
And it was like Whiplash Radio.
Yeah. I thought that was a really nice touch,
That
making it called
really,
Whiplash
really
Radio.
Cool. I've been doing your rallies for the last 4
years. Yeah.
4 years I've been on your rallies, and that was the first time I've had something like that where I didn't have to like play my own music or just have to listen to the road because whatever, my radio wasn't working. So it was like just scan that QR code and let it play.
Yeah, it's so easy to fall into the same rhythms of your music choices, and so I, for one, really enjoy hearing and finding new music. It just gets me really, really excited when I hear a really good new song. And I know a lot of people that I talk to also feel the same way. So building playlists like this where people can experience some songs that they know and so a lot of new songs too, I think can really add to the experience that they're having on these roads.
Yeah, I think if anybody here is running a rally, definitely do that at a radio station so that your drivers can all kind of listen to something similar or, you know, something new. So I think that's a really great touch to the rally.
Yeah, I just made a Spotify playlist and I named it Whiplash Rally and
Yeah.
then or Whiplash Radio through a little QR code on those daily itineraries, and it made it nice and easy for everybody to access. Otherwise, I also have a daily radio that I like to keep up on Spotify as well. I call that Shred Radio. So that's basically just all the songs that I'm playing in the print shop while I'm there, you know, just keeping that stuff on repeat. So if you guys are looking for some new music or some fun stuff to listen to, you're bored, not just confused and don't know what to listen to anymore, you know, throw on Shred Radio.
Is that the same one that you used to, like the weekly newsletter or whatever, or is that a different one?
It's pretty similar, yeah.
Or do you still have that one going too?
I think the weekly newsletter that you're referring to is one of the Dirty Laundry playlists that I was making.
Yep.
Because I used to do a Minnesota Noise playlist where each week I ended up falling off the horse on that one. You know, all these projects that I'm working on. Of course, that is one that I would love to get back into.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to follow a daily update of some really awesome music, Shred Radio on Spotify is the place to go.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after that. Because, like, again, like, you know, sometimes in the mornings, you know, at the gym or whatever, like, sometimes I feel like doing something fresh.
Or just your commute into work or your commute out of work.
I listen to my own podcast. I love my voice so much. No kidding. You know what? I think the first one or whatever, I messed up the audio. So, like, in the car, I would hear myself from the left and I would hear Sean from the right.
That's awesome.
So,
stereo panning right there.
Which kind of, I mean, in a way, it kind of makes sense and
you
works.
Gotta put my voice right in the center.
Right, yeah, exactly. So that'd be perfect. But so I realized that was a fix I had to make. But yeah, so like I like to know like how things sound in different places. How's it gonna sound on the laptop? How's it gonna sound on my phone? You know, in the car. That's where most people listen to is podcasts. I feel either that or the boring rat race they call work. You know.
Yeah, one of my favorite places to listen to podcasts and music is in my car while I'm driving, because in there I'm really able to crank music specifically just to the nth degree and just have that shit blasting, rattling all the bolts right out of the damn Jeep.
Here's a question for you. Have we figured out your dream car yet? Because I've been pushing for like a 964 Porsche in his future, like 10 years from now or something.
Honestly, I would love one of those. And I feel like my dream car changes every 10 minutes, especially being in an environment where everybody's dream cars are coming through. You know, it gives me a lot of perspective. And I think I'm just going to take the time to keep thinking and keep looking until I get to that day where I've got the cash in my hand saying, let's start this dream car.
Right? Because what are you currently driving?
Right now, I've got a 2004 Jeep Liberty.
Is that the same one that got stuck on Pikes Peak?
It is actually not. It is the cousin to the 2006 Jeep Liberty that got stuck on the mountain. They are both silver. I honestly love that workhorse, despite getting stuck on the mountain that one time.
It's so awesome because when your other one broke down or whatever,
as the roadside assistance crew halfway up Pikes Peak.
Yeah, well, there's that, but I'm saying like when the other one was you got in an accident or whatever, I think it was, or that totaled it out. I think the previous one, or what happened?
It didn't really get totaled. I had somebody sideswipe me, rip off the mirror, and put a dent in the door, and then because the Jeep is already not worth that much, insurance is like, well, I guess it's totaled. So I pocketed the check and I bought the $30 mirror, and off we go.
Yeah, so then didn't you replaced it with the same car, right?
Yeah, because that one ended up getting to about like 260,000 miles, and it was like just on the cusp of needing a repair like every 2 weeks. So I was like, I'm gonna do the smart thing and get a new vehicle. But the problem was I loved that Jeep so much that I just didn't want to let go of it. So through all my hours of scrolling, I ended up coming across another silver Jeep Liberty. Just happened to be 2 years older, and I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. It had like over 100,000 miles less than what my other Jeep currently had.
So basically new.
New to me, yeah. So it feels a lot newer than the one that I had, that's for sure.
Yeah, like that's why I was like kind of silently giggling, because like you got the exact same car.
Exactly.
And it's just awesome. Like that, there's only so many people that will do that, right? Like, you know, like that's like me going to get another white Golf. You know, like I don't know.
It's called brand loyalty.
Brand loyalty, color loyalty, all of that. Like, just every type of loyalty.
For me, with what I do, especially being a musician, hauling gear everywhere, like I love that Jeep. You know,
it's perfect what you
I'm
do.
able to parallel park anywhere in Minneapolis. You know, I can get through any amount of snow that Minnesota drops on me, and I can haul all of my gear. Like I can fit an entire drum kit, my entire bass rig, and one entire guitar rig, plus 3 people in that Jeep.
We're not sponsored by Jeep, by the way.
That'd be pretty sweet. Dude, it would be awesome to get this thing to a point to where like I have sponsors I actually care about, like, you know, again, like, you know, something like that Jocko Fuel or whatever, like local shops as well, you know, like NutriShop was like one of my sponsors for the rally, you know, and that'd be pretty sweet at some point in the future. But like, you know, just to get to that point, you know, just to like, I don't know, expand the podcast even further, because like we're kind of slowly pimping out our space here, getting it ready for the video aspect, and I say our space when it's Sean's space.
Yeah,
you know,
you kind of just keep hijacking my space, and you keep like acting like it's ours when it's really mine.
It's like that roommate that doesn't pay
I let you
rent.
borrow it.
Right, exactly. We're a team effort. I mean, like that was one of the things I touched on. Like, I just want to co-host because it's just, I think it's important to have somebody else there, especially somebody that's as knowledgeable as Sean when it comes to cars. Like, I drive the cars. He knows so much more about the technical aspect. And
Yeah, honestly, just like to look at cars. Like I couldn't tell you too much about the innards of it. Like I'm a visual kind of guy when it comes to cars.
Right. So like Sean's kind of like the type of guy that breaks down the language other people are speaking to me to make sense to my chimp brain, and then I lay it over to other people, like such as yourself, into like layman terms, you know. But granted, you also know a good ton too. So.
Yeah. I know enough to get me by. That's for sure. You know, just your basic mechanic needs, but nothing like swapping anything major.
Right, yeah, because you guys did a DIY on Venom as well when the car broke or whatever, remember? Like on the mountain?
Oh, yep. So we had to replace the ball joint. The ball joint was the piece that kind of took us out. We were coming up one of the turns. It was a pretty sharp turn, and it kind of felt like we were three-wheeling a little bit. And my co-driver was like, were we just three-wheeling right there? I was like, I don't think so. I hope not, at least. And then we start to straighten out a little bit, and then all of a sudden I hear a pop, and then it just starts, something's dragging on the ground. So I immediately stop driving. I jump out, and my fucking ball joint's on the floor.
Yeah, and this is on a mountain.
Yeah, like a third to halfway up Pikes Peak, and I'm sitting here with a ball joint. Yeah, like before that first checkpoint where they've got that gift shop and people can stop to let their brakes rest and everything.
Past it, wasn't it?
It was just before. I didn't even get that far because the tow truck had to go up past me so we could turn around up there.
Yeah.
and then help me out. But man, like props to that tow truck driver for getting me off that mountain. That was no easy feat for sure.
Well, it was super messed up too, because like nobody wanted to come up there because like a few tow trucks like were like, yeah, we're coming, just kidding or whatever.
Oh yeah, we were sitting on the side of the mountain for like 4 hours.
Yeah, and the thing is, the tow truck that came up to get you is not the one that brought you back to the hotel.
Yep, he said he could only take me to the bottom of the mountain. So I'm like, I guess let's start there. Just get me to the bottom of the mountain and I'll fucking figure my shit out there.
And then we spent so much time, like, over at, what was it, Santa's workshop or whatever?
Yep, that's where they dropped me off right there.
And we were playing, whatever, like, we were throwing cones around, just sitting around, like, just shooting the shit.
Yeah, yeah. That was the day that I met Charles all the way out all the way out in Colorado. C1 Productions, I believe, is the name of his C4 Productions.
Yeah, he's
is the name of his
crushing it.
company.
He's working for a YouTube channel right now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, he'll be at Texas 2K. You'll probably, have you met Charles? You met him on the rally, right?
What does he drive?
Well, he was one of the photographers that met us in Colorado out there. I can't remember what they brought. They had the Chevy, the thing that looks like a PT Cruiser, but Chevy's version, the Hurricane or whatever. So they brought that out there. That was their media car, him and Matt.
Yeah, bless Charles's heart, because he ended up using one of his AAA passes for me to get my Jeep from the bottom of that mountain all the way out to the hotel in Denver. So I didn't even have to pay for that tow trip, which so
ain't cheap
awesome.
either, yeah.
Yeah, so like huge shout out to you, Charles, if you're listening.
Yeah, I need to hit that man up again. That I have him saved in my phone as nicest photographer in Colorado, or nicest man in Colorado, or whatever.
Right? Yeah.
So I absolutely love that man. Now, that was a trip. Venom was, It was wild, man. I think all the rallies that you've been on, and that was one of the things that I wanted to have you on the rallies to actually be a part of it, not just some dude that just designed something. I wanted you to be, you know, because I remember I think you wanted to volunteer on the first one.
That first Venom rally, I had never been on a rally before. I hardly even understood what it was, to be honest.
Right.
And as you kept describing it to me, and as we kept moving forward on all these livery designs and all these flyer designs, I just got more and more excited about it, and I had to find a way to be a part of it in some capacity. So I was like, will you let me drive my 2006 Jeep Liberty on this rally? And you're like, no. That car does not fit with that car cannot hang. It just can't. So I'm like, okay, maybe I could borrow my dad's G37X, and he was like, hell no. So I was like, shit, what do I do? And then after a lot of hours of thinking, I was like, well, what I drive is kind of a utility vehicle. So what if I proposed me being kind of like the shepherd car, you know, like help herd everybody around and follow up the group with a bucket of tools in case anybody needs a fix. Bring along a mechanic buddy of mine, and then we should be good to go. And then I pitched the idea to you, and you're like, actually, that's perfect. We don't have any volunteers.
Right. So that worked out perfectly. And you know what? Here, you might remember this story as well. So we had Piero on that first year at the rally, right? And he'll be a podcast member. Hopefully in the next one or the one after that. I'd love to talk to him about in depth because me and Sean are both looking at doing some autocross next season.
That dude's killing it.
That dude, he knows what to do, you know, with that Evo. So funny story about him is they were on the rally and we were right around the Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills over there, or Black Forest, whatever. And they, so you guys are the car in the back. Mm-hmm. You have fuel.
We're carrying 8 different gas cans with 2 different types of fuel.
Yeah, yep. So they have fuel, they have all the tools or whatever, and they were basically in charge of accounting for all the ralliers, making sure that, you know, nobody's stuck behind, nobody's in trouble, you know, nothing crazy like that. No man left behind.
We were able to tow anybody if we needed to, so we were that shepherd for sure.
Right, like these guys were, you know, packed to the gills, ready to go. And then they were like, we've been circling, you know, around the Black Forest here for about like an hour. We still haven't seen Piero. Where the heck is he? We found out later when we got to the hotel that they went and got a helicopter tour.
Oh, yeah. That was to get some of the extra bonus points.
No, that wasn't for bonus points at all.
Oh, that wasn't for bonus points?
No, that's why the following year, I think we added some sort of bonus points to do something crazy like that. But yeah, we were just like, you went on a helicopter tour on
I went in Rome.
And they still made it there faster than I think it might have been Alex in the truck into the Talon, but yeah, so they weren't even last.
I remember leaving the Black Hills with Alex and the Talon and Piero, because all 3 of us stopped at that last little stop in the Black Hills, and then ended up taking off together in the sunset.
Yeah, no, that was wild. And I think so what Alex did is I think he dropped the trailer because he was trailering his Talon. That was the other question that I had was like, or he asked me, he's like, could I trailer my car? Because it's E85. It ain't going to make it. It has like a 102-mile range.
Yeah, Piero made it. He used E85 too.
Yeah, and from now on, I always tell ralliers, like, you are triple fucked if you are E85, especially going
I did have to fill Piero up like 4 or 5 times.
Right. Yeah, because having a support car carrying gas is tough, you know. And then there's a level of liability there. It's like you have to make sure it's good E85 and just get flex fuel.
For real.
Please, God, just get flex fuel on a rally. No, I actually did a rally with Katie earlier this year. That was the 10K Lakes rally. And she brought her R32, which I believe was just the 85 too. And she was having a little bit of trouble, but she also had cans or whatever too. So
Smart.
So she brought that out. And then Mark also with the GT500. I think he had some too. He has a really nice can, like a metal can. You saw it, I think maybe.
Yeah, nice. I got one because I loved it. It wasn't like one of those red dingy ones. It was like a really nice like stainless steel, like super high quality. I'm like, oh, that's what I want. Like that looks good.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you want something that really lasts. For the first Venom, we used brand new VP Racing Fuel cans.
Yeah, those were nice cans.
Those are really nice cans.
Yeah, they weren't just like stupid red ones. They were like, So I think we gave them away or whatever.
Yeah, because I was stuck on the side of the mountain, we were like, well, we have to get rid of all this extra weight. So as the cars are coming back down the mountain, we're like, hey, you use E85. You're probably going to want this on your drive home because I can't follow you.
Yep. So, oh man, good times, memory lane, man. That was a good time.
Indeed.
So I mean, no more rallies from me, but I do have you working on projects. I'm still trying to figure out that shirt situation, the first monoxide drop. ever, I guess. I think I've only given out like 1 or 2 hoodies back in the day.
I suppose so, yeah. It's
Yeah.
more of a personal possession every time you print a shirt.
Yeah, because I remember there was this, I think his name was Throttle Visuals. His name was Austin. He was like one of the people that bought like a Monoxide shirt or whatever, 1 or 2 other people.
Nice.
And that was pretty much it, because I just never pushed it. I'm not a merch pushing guy, but
Yeah, because it seemed like when you first were doing it, it was mostly just to advertise yourself as a photographer.
well, I just kind of wanted one for myself, because I remember seeing Josh Hui, Dynamic Photo Works, like he would have one that said Dynamic Photo Works or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I was like, I should probably do that myself, just so, at meets I can wear it. And
Yeah, it makes you feel a little bit more official. It makes you feel like you're taking your business a little more seriously.
Yeah, so anytime, I have a lot of really cool projects that I want you to work on in the near future. I have ways to make both our lives faster and easier, but
Nice. Yeah, I love designing T-shirts. I love designing cars. Like, honestly,
You got good at
any design challenge that you guys can throw at me, like, I love that shit.
All right, I think I got one for you pretty soon.
What you
Something
got?
that I've been thinking about for a few years now, but I've never really seen done well.
Tight. Let's talk after this podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I don't want to ruin the surprise, so
Yeah, it's gonna be a
Uh,
surprise for you and for me.
exactly.
off the record, I like it. Make a note of that mentally. We got to talk about that. I'm excited now. I need to know what that is. No, so here's the other thing, too. When you got into this, back when we asked you to do the team stance out stuff back in the day for Gelly,
That's a blast from the past.
that's a real blast. Because I remember, like,
That was a turning point for me when you sat down with me that day, and that was the first ever livery that I ever designed.
yeah, so, like, so before we get into that, I want to touch on, like, language. Because a lot of people don't know how to speak in the same terms. So working with you and with Doug specifically at the time, that was interesting, right? Because Doug didn't see the full value of working with you at first, so I kind of had to bridge the gap. Like, here's designer, here's what they want to do, what they're capable of doing, here's what you want, or what you should want, rather, and bridging that gap. So one thing that I like to tell people is, like, especially when I'm introducing them to you or sending them your way, it's like, hey, he's going to ask you a series of questions. They might be a little goofy, like, why do you, 3 songs or whatever. Trust the process. And you've gotten really good at explaining your process to people since, like, 4 years ago to where we're at now. So one thing I always like to tell people, it's like the first design or the first few interactions, might go perfect. Other times, it's like you guys just had to find a language that you both understand and can speak. I mean,
Yeah.
can you speak to that, I guess?
Yeah, it's all a development process. You can't always get a home run on the first swing, especially if I'm just meeting you for the first time. It takes me a little bit to start to get to know you, start to get to know your personality, the type of visual cues that you like to use, the colors you like to use. So that first conversation that I have with somebody, I find to be really critical. Sometimes asking some what others might consider goofy questions are really valuable and really rich to me, and getting to know you and your brand, or you and your business it's really useful for me to be able to get to know you and to get to know your business. So yeah, that first conversation is really big. So I'm not sure what else to say from there.
No, I nailed it. Like, and the same can apply to any sort of sales in any kind of aspect of life, but particularly creatives, right? It's like, what are you trying to accomplish with this? What kind of advertising or feeling, whether it's a personal or for a business, like you said. Are you guys doing a lot of business? Like, I guess, how much of your work is designing for businesses versus individuals?
Most of what I do is business to business.
Okay.
So I work with a lot of small businesses, particularly. It's a lot of people with new companies that need merchandise to help show off a new clothing brand, or they need some kind of digital promotion, whether that be a video or some series of static posts. A lot of those businesses will reach out to me for marketing needs, which can look a lot of different ways. Those marketing needs may be merchandising, those marketing needs may be on a digital platform, producing daily content. It really kind of varies. But yeah, I would to go back to your previous question, that development process, it's hard to nail it on the first try, especially if I don't know you as a person. So there's a lot of back and forth of us figuring out what it is we're searching for. A lot of times I don't know what the end result is exactly going to look like. I'm just trudging through and building it one piece at a time, with you by my side, helping steer some of these decisions and some of these directions. So a lot of times I end up going through 2, 3, 4 revision rounds with most of my clients, to get to that final point of what we're looking for. Every once in a while, there'll be a t-shirt project or an album cover project that I knock out on the first try. And that's usually just because I know you as a person already. So I kind of have an understanding of what direction you want to take it in.
Right, so it's always good to be like a repeat customer with the same graphic designer.
Yeah, it's really valuable to have a good relationship with a graphic designer, whether it's me or somebody else, because you're able to just get to know each other on a whole nother level.
I think there can be something said to that relationship piece as well, because there was a certain point where I was fed up with your shit too, and you were fed up with me at certain points too.
Yeah, we just wasn't clicking right away.
It was not even right away. This was after the first year or second year, the end of the second year of Venom, where I even tasked other designers or whatever just to see what else was out there, and sometimes you realize you don't know what you had until you lose it. And then I realized, what, I would and this is a big growing point for me. It's like, and I can't even remember what it was that was off-putting or annoying, or something was just not working, at least on the internal side of Venom, which there's a number of reasons why that didn't work out, but something wasn't clicking between us and whatever you were doing at the time. Or again, I think it was more of an internal thing on our end, but it was a big growing point for me to realize, like, okay, let's work with Trevor here. It's better to figure out what we can do here and to make things go better than to go back to the dating pool.
Right, so start all over again.
Right, why start all over again when you can kind of be like, take a step back, most of the time it's just miscommunication. Let's see if we're speaking the same damn language.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we've got different visions between the designer and the client. So you could be close or you could be really far off. So the more you can have those conversations and answer those questions, I think the faster and easier you'll be able to get to those design solutions that you're incredibly excited with.
I think so. I think that was just one of the hard parts, is just understanding, and this is the other thing, when we were such a fresh business. I mean, we were just in year 2 of Venom, year 3 of running rallies, and it's just like learning as you go. And especially, you're a young fella, you're a young buck,
Yeah.
So it's like you're learning things as you go too. I mean, the day we stop learning, we die.
Exactly.
So.
I learn stuff every single day, whether I know it or not.
Yeah.
That's honestly quite fun to me. Quite fun to think about all the different things that I'm learning, and then I can look back 3-6 months from now and say, wow, I actually didn't know how to do that 6 months ago, and all of a sudden I do today. Yeah,
the level of things you've learned since we first began is kind of, I always message you or whatever on Instagram or whatever, and I'm like, dude, I'm fucking proud of you, dude, because where you began, I remember the wrap that we did on Gelly's car, and the basic liveries and all that fun stuff. It's like, to see what you're doing. When I saw John Wayne's car, I was like, yes, he finally did it. A full kind of wrap where it was super detail oriented. It's just a driving art piece.
Yeah.
And maybe you've done some other stuff like that, and I think you have, but it was more than just a livery. It was a full on creation of your own, that somebody gave you a list of things that they absolutely wanted done. And I knew at some point John was going to do something with that Transformers thing. I love his shop. I love that car, because I texted him immediately. I'm like, I don't care, free of charge. I want to shoot that thing immediately. I don't have to be the first photographer. I don't have to be the 10th, but let me know, because I want to shoot it for you and for him, and just because it's such a project that I'm passionate about. And the fact that you finally did something of that caliber, and again, maybe you've already done it, but this is the first time I saw it where it was just so fucking out of this world. I was like, that's a win.
Yeah, that project was a lot of fun. Absolutely. John Wayne is such a fun person to work with. He's got such a big energy. So it was just all smiles all around for that whole project. Even though it got a little stressful towards the closing hours,
Mm-hmm.
I was right there with the install team, making sure everything is turning out absolutely perfect as they're wrapping that vehicle, all the way up to the last hour. I was there documenting the whole process, which was a lot of fun too. I've been able to have the opportunity to document a lot of the process that the Platinum Auto Wraps team does. So I was able to put together a really fun process video to help announce that car coming out.
I like to lean back to give you an opportunity too. So if you ever want to chime in, I'm really bad. So like, this is the other thing that we're kind of working out through the development of this podcast is like, sometimes like we'll have like a bunch of questions that we want to rattle off. We're like, oh yeah, that's right. Let's let the other person talk too. So it's like just one of those learning things. No, dude, I absolutely love everything that you've done so far in this community, and the fact that, like, again, I can't speak to how far you've come. This is a little bit of a circle jerk at this point, but yeah, I think I'm really excited to see what's next. I mean, do you have any other big wraps like that coming up?
Nothing that I can really speak of
Yeah.
to you people right now.
Okay, I like that. Oh, actually, this is a question I had. This is actually one of the first things that I thought is, what made you guys choose the satin look over gloss on his car?
It's got a much more sinister look to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that Disney World effect that gloss sometimes
Okay.
has, especially with those bright colors that Optimus Prime uses, you know, that bright red and that bright
Okay.
blue. We were teetering on the edge of cartoon and realism, so going for that matte
Okay.
finish helped give the car more of like a battle-worn look to it, especially because I gave it, you know, a lot of like gritty scratches and texture to it to make it look like this car's, you know, been through battle many, many, many years.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, on a tight timeline, because I've seen a lot of different crazy things done with wraps to add that level of texture. Like, you know, whether it's like several layers. Like I remember, was it Mike or whatever, the guy with the TTRS, he had 7 layers of wrap on his car for Crown Rally. So it was like
Crazy.
chrome, like it was gnarly.
Yeah, I love doing embossments where you've got
Yep.
you've got your sticker underneath and then your main wrap over the top of that. That gives it that little bit of lift. We actually did a spot like that on the JWP car on the gas cap. We did
Yeah, I saw
a
that.
50-50 Autobots and Decepticons logo, and then we embossed that right there on the gas cap.
So here's a question for Sean, right? Or like that to like help facilitate this project you guys are gonna work on now. How does somebody approach you, whether it's through Platinum or I guess now it's mostly through Platinum. Let's say somebody wants to do a wrap with you.
Oh, it's easy. Just reach out and say, hey, I want to do a wrap.
So what-
and then
yeah.
I'll reach out to you with my follow-up questions, which are, I mean, if we're speaking wrap specifically, it's, you know, what is your exact car? What color is it right now? What do you want to do with it? Simple as that.
Do you have any like quirky saying, like, what's your dream, Sean?
What's my dream?
Yeah, what's your dream? What's your dream wrap? Are we allowed to speak of it yet?
No, I thought we were saving that for after.
We're gonna do it all. Okay.
It's a surprise.
Yeah, man.
I can't reveal my hand just yet. I don't want somebody else to hear this and go, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to steal it and do it before him.
Smart man.
Yeah, that's the one thing I love about wraps is there's always somebody doing something wild. There's always something new to it, and especially with print now. Like print's gotten so good in the last I don't know how long it's been around, but I've just seen a lot more wrapped cars that are printed wraps in the last maybe like 5 years.
Yeah, it seems to be the thing that's most popular right now, especially just any kind of color change or any kind of personalization to a vehicle. People are turning to vinyl, and especially printed vinyl. So being in a position where I have access to all these different materials just gives me an endless list of possibilities that I can do for my car, my buddy's car, somebody I don't even know's car.
I love it, man. Working with creatives could be so simultaneously difficult yet rewarding.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to get through those rough patches when you're not quite aligning with your vision. And once you get through that thick of it, you know, it's just all smiles from there, because you really start to understand each other and can kind of start to get a vision for what the other person is looking for. And then everything that you make together from there is just kind of aligned nicely. I think it's really important for designers to be confident in what they're doing, but if the client just does not agree or does not want to go with it, you know, sometimes that's just the way it goes. I think clients and designers both need to be adaptive to each other, you know, because you're collaborating together. You know, you're both working together to create this vision.
Right. Do you ever feel like, you know, you as a designer, you show your hard work to your customer, and then
All the time.
and then they go, they just don't give any pushback. They're just like, they're too like afraid to be to give any conflict. So then you just like they're just like, yeah, that's okay, like that's good, like, and then you can kind of like know, like, you know, something's up, like this is bothering them.
Yeah, for that specifically, I think I've only experienced that maybe once or twice, like very, very early on in my career before I even really knew what I was doing. You know, I think they were just happy to have whatever they needed designed, and just kind of wanted to get on with it. Those people usually have those $5 budgets. But for me, most of the time, my clients do not fear me because I'm completely honest and always upfront 100% of the time. So they have no fears of me hiding anything. They have no fears of weird surprise payments. You know, I try to keep everything upfront and everything clear, so that way we can be on the same page about everything. So if you're just not happy with it, I want you to tell me you're not happy with it, and then we'll work together one-on-one until you are happy with it. It could be as simple as, I don't like the color yellow, or it could be something more complex that we need to dive into.
Yeah, it could just be like something so small and like meaningless, but to that person, it could be like a game changer.
Yeah, sometimes the client doesn't even realize it's the color yellow that's throwing them off. You know, they're going for a particular attitude in this piece, and it just so happens that the yellow just throws off the attitude of that. So me as a designer, understanding that now you see it as, I don't like the way this piece is portraying itself, I need to go back and think, what can I do to help align with what you're going for? And if it happens to be the color, then it's the color.
That's really cool. Damn, I had that question and I lost. I got so lost in the sauce, you know, it just got me going. Yeah, I mean, I know sometimes like you'll show me something and I wouldn't be happy with it, right? And it's not because of something you did, it's because I failed to convey a vision, right? So that's one thing that you've gotten, especially in the last 3 years when we've worked together. It's like you've gotten so good at asking the right questions that I never even thought about, or whatever clients you're working with. So it's like, and then you also present, usually 2 to 3 concepts too, that are like vastly different, and then you can kind of pick out like, what do you like about each one? Can you add this and that, and go through that revision?
Asking the right questions is so critical. Like that's a make or break for the project right there. If you don't ask the right questions, you could be spinning your wheels for 3 weeks before you come up with something that the client has no want for. Like they just don't care for it. But if you're asking the right questions, then you can start to develop those proper solutions that the client will be happy with. I, for one, always like to present 2 to 3 concepts, typically err on the 3 concept side of things, mostly because that gives me room for figuring out where your vision sits, especially on that first pitch, that first concept of whatever project we're working on. So my first concept is usually trying to create what I think your vision is to a T. Concept number 2 is usually a little bit of a play off that in a direction that I think you should take with it. And then oftentimes concept 3 in that pitch deck is kind of an off-the-wall idea that I think maybe there's a chance you'd have no desire of going for that. Maybe there's a chance of it never happening, but I, in my heart, feel like it's a really good solution because it's different. It's really off the wall. And sometimes clients love it right away. They like, that's the one.
It's happened, yeah.
But yeah, like giving those 3 options to a client really gives them a sense of, this guy is taking the time to really help me get to where I want to go. I can see that he's giving me many different options to choose from, different avenues we can take instead of my way or the highway kind of thing. There are some designers I've run into that really like to take over projects and take it too personally. So when the client says, I don't like the color yellow, your favorite color might be yellow, and then you're just completely offended by it. But I think it's important to kind of detach yourself enough where you're searching for that most ideal solution that works for the client's needs, but something that you're still excited about. I think to continue rambling on just a little longer.
Keep going, man.
I hold myself to a very high standard of only pitching ideas and concepts that I am happy with. Sometimes it makes me spin my wheels for an extra few hours than I can afford, but ultimately it makes for a much bigger payoff and a much better product for something that both the client and myself is happy with.
That's something we see in the car community too, where it's like sometimes people cannot detach, like they'll look at somebody else's car and then they'll give all the suggestions, like, dude, you should have done this, you should have done that. Like, that's kind of like what you're describing as a designer. It's like you have to detach yourself. It's not about what you want, it's about what your client wants. And sometimes you can help the client discover what they want.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in the car community, it's like, oh, well, these wheels would suit you perfectly or whatever. I mean, it doesn't happen too, actually it happens to the Golf now. It didn't happen too much with my previous cars. You know, maybe the Gladiator, it's like, oh, you should get a lift kit and all that. It's like, bro, are you paying for it? You know, like stuff like that. But I think it happens a good amount in the car world, I'd say.
Oh yeah, 100%. I see it. You see it all the time in forums, online, like on the internet, Facebook groups. Everybody gotta give their 2 cents about you know how they did their build wrong, how they went with the wrong wheels or the wrong part, and it's and then it's always you know it's their money. They can build their car how they want to. Except for if you do like a teal wrap, I hate you, and you need to be a little bit more creative and different. I cannot stand teal wraps. Like you know the color that I'm.
Oh, I know
like,
the exact color you're talking
yeah,
about.
if you know what I'm talking about, you see it. It's on an Infinity, and it's hot garbage.
I'm sorry, dude. Damn.
Dude,
I was considering doing like an Aston
It is
Martin.
probably one of my like biggest pet peeves in the car world. If you have a teal wrap, I'm sorry, but like that's my 2 cents, and you got scammed out of your money.
I'm so glad I didn't pull the trigger on that. I was about to do an Aston Martin racing, you know, color. I was thinking about either that or like the color the Supra was, but
I think there's
Well,
a
no,
way
it-
to make the teal look good, but
Not in
there's
Sean's eyes.
a lot of people who make the teal look not so good.
Yeah, well, they just overdo it. It's too much teal. There's no secondary color, and that's like they base their whole life around that color.
Yeah, it's just like taking spray paint to the car and just filling it up.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with like the Aston Martin paint color.
Okay, we're good.
That's factory, but you know if it's just different when you see it on an Infinity or a Golf.
Some cars call for it, most cars don't.
Yeah.
okay, I won't do it. Damn. Okay. No.
What is your biggest pet peeve
In what capacity?
in like for car wraps? Like, is there something that you know somebody might say and you just dread it?
Hot pink racing stripes on a car that shouldn't have racing stripes at all, especially if they're only on the hood.
Oh, that is awful. And not even doesn't go up to the roof, doesn't even go down the bumper. It's only
And this
on the hood.
client insisted. He's like, nope, only the hood, only the hood. I'm like, is it a money thing? He's like, no, I literally just want the hood.
You would have been more content with it if it went the whole way, or
Yeah, I at least would have been a little bit more content with it going the whole way, because it would have fit the car a little bit better. But to stop it at the hood was just kind of silly.
What was the other color? So it was hot pink on what?
It was a very dark brownish, almost blackish color car.
Uh-huh.
And they actually removed the Cadillac badges and put a Bentley badge on it.
This person's insane.
Yeah. I don't know what to say.
I wouldn't either, but I'd take their money.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes this paying gig is a paying gig. Get them in, get them out, you know? You still treat them with the same respect that you treat everybody else with, but you just don't agree with their decisions.
Yeah, I mean, dude, even with photography, it's like, oh man, like, but again, everybody, this is why we're people. You know, everybody has different tastes or whatever things they want. You know, like there was even some color choices on Venom or Whiplash that I wasn't a fan of either, and it just kind of was like, that's fine. That's what makes
really
you happy.
Fun and exciting for somebody like me, for
Right.
all these different personalities and all these different little visual tastes that people have. You know, for me to go to a car show and be able to see firsthand all of these little styles and all these little nuances that people are doing to their cars. Like as a designer, it gives me a million new ideas, which I think is really cool. And I just love to talk to people about their decision making for getting to that point with that car.
Are there any graphic designers that you follow that are kind of like your inspiration, or do you just like you don't like to look at other people's, so you're not like you don't feel like you're copying them? Or
That's a good question. I don't like to feel like I'm designing in a void, so I absolutely follow other designers, especially other wrap designers. One of my favorites right now is Glarb. Glarb Design is just killing it, and he gives me a lot of great ideas. I think it's really, really beneficial and really healthy for designers to get to know and really get close with other designers, especially ones that are in quote close competition with you. Every designer naturally just has a different way of doing things. You know, they have different visual choices, different things that they like to lean towards. And so if you go with the same project to 3 different designers and tell them the same 3 answers for all their questions, you know, you're going to get 3 completely different projects. I think that's what's really fun. So I love to get to know my fellow designers and my fellow creatives around here.
Awesome. So is Glar in Minnesota, or is this?
He's not. He is. He's elsewhere. I can't remember where he's from off the top of my head, but that's a big one for me.
All right.
All right. I think we're well past the hour mark, so I'm just gonna wrap up with like one more question that might set you off for the next hour and a half. AI art. Where do you stand on that? Do you see it as a tool to work with at all, or do you hate it? I mean, like you've seen like Midjourney, I take it, and I've posted a good bit about it. Is there a way to where you could use it in a capacity to, like I've seen, there's a photographer, I think his name's like, I don't know, Alex Penfold or Mike Crott, whatever, and they take their photos that they've already taken, edited, throw it in the AI engine, and then, you know, they'll take some aspects of it or whatever. Do you see that helping you, or do you think like, ew, yucky?
That's a good question. I did not anticipate this one. I think, to be fair, immediately when I first started hearing about AI art, I said, no, get rid of that. Like, there really is no use for it.
It's not human, yeah.
Not the fact that it just wasn't human. It's just like you weren't ever going to get what you wanted. You got some weird, like morphed version of what you wanted most of the time. But nowadays, now that I've had some more time to think about it and just kind of like be with it, I think it can be really useful. Not in the sense that it will replace designers, because that will certainly never happen. I can guarantee you that. I think the biggest challenge that I'm finding with AI art is that you can't make revisions. You know, you type in your keywords or whatever to get the image you want, but you get what you get with something like that, you know?
True.
Like, you can't really go in and say, oh, I'll just tweak this a little bit, or I'll just tweak that a little bit. You know, at that point, you have to go to a designer and say, hey, can you take this into Photoshop, tweak this a little bit, and then tweak that a little bit. I think that's where AI is really coming up short, and I don't think it'll ever get past that point. But as a designer, finding ways that it can help me in my art, I find it can be really useful for creating clip art type things, you know, like very one-use, kind of fun, quirky things. I find it's good for concepting. So if you just want to concept a lot of different Mario heads and a lot of different art styles,
Idea generation.
without having to sit there and do it all 15 times yourself, and spending those countless hours, you know, you can just, you know, get a quick little overview, a quick little glimpse of the possible directions you could take with it.
So, in case nobody knows what we're talking about, probably should have led with that. So Midjourney is one of the better AI art generators at the moment. I'd say I played around with a few of them, a couple subscriptions or whatever, and just to see where we're at. And Midjourney is kind of like the leading one that's everybody's loving, just because it has, it's not even like fully AI. It's kind of like a generator of some sort that kind of simulates AI, is what somebody described it to me as. So it's definitely not quite there. But basically, what you do is you get on the Discord app, just on computer or phone or whatever, and you type in /imagine, and then it gives you a prompt. So in this instance, you know, like I created a few TikToks or whatever of this, like, all right, I want to see the Pagani Zonda as a car in Rocket League, and it actually did it pretty bang on. Like, it was actually really impressive. Now, granted, there's certain things that annoyed me, like I couldn't get the framing right or whatever, and this is where we go into the revision thing. It's like, it gives you 4 concepts, but you can't be like, okay, well, remove the wing or give me a bigger wing, because it's not smart enough to do so. And I think that's because it's not a true AI yet. And then while we're on the topic of AI, I was kind of listening in on this earlier. It's like, you know, ChatGPT or whatever. We're kind of at the point where like the neural nets are at like 175 billion whatever threads or whatever the term is. It's like, it's getting there. It's getting more complex, but it's not true AI yet. And I don't know if we're going to see that for at least 5-10 years. But then there's like also the creative aspect of it. How the hell do you simulate that? And I just think that you'll never be able to truly do it but it could be an aid, like you said. Like, give me 4 different Mario heads.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be nothing more than an aid for creatives. I think there's going to be a lot of high school art students who are going to use it to make their project for the day, but it's not going to go much further than that, to be perfectly honest. Utilizing the images that AI creates is the hard part. So that's when a designer really needs to step in. You know, if
Yeah.
you're trying to create a T-shirt and you're asking an AI to create a weird Daffy Duck image, you know, how do you then put that onto a shirt? How do you size that? Do you need to crop this out? You know, I think that's where it really comes up short. At some point in the process, you're going to need a designer, whether it's yourself or somebody else.
Yeah, it'll never be perfect first time out. Or 10th time out. Believe me, if you look at my Discord feed of me feeding the bots.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you're trying to come up with a new rap idea for your car, and you're like, "Hey, AI, make me a Rocket League version." You're like, "Cool, you showed me a 3D version of it that's all morphed and you know looks like Rocket League, but how do I actually apply that to my car?"
Yeah, I could actually give you my login or whatever to play around with it, Sean, to see if you have any ideas. Because again, it gets really complex, but there's no real world use to it.
Yeah, framed art, I think, is all it will ever be.
I think so. And again, you know, where it's at in 5-10 years, who knows? It'll probably be better, but I think ultimately, I think it's probably just gonna be a tool.
And that's okay. I think it's a great tool for us designers to have.
Yeah, and you know, we've seen it with like in the last year and a half, we've seen a lot of outbreak in AI, whether it's music generation and whatever, writing papers with ChatGPT. That's freaking wild. But it's like there's still so much to go, and hopefully we'll be lucky enough to not have it in our lifetime to full capacity, because that will be a true loss, you know, on the creative side of things.
It'll be an interesting world to live in.
Yeah, well, we're kind of in an era where it's like, for example, like if you're like in a business, like you want some marketing or whatever, you go type it into Midjourney or whatever, and you get it. We're in the era of, oh, that's good enough.
Yeah, that's a
Right?
good point. It seems like a lot of people are starting to lean that way.
Right? Because like one of my favorite quotes from Henry Kissinger, you know, regardless of what people may think of him, it's like, is this the best you can do? And he doesn't mean that in a mean way. Like he would ask like, you know, interns or whatever to come back with like a review or study or whatever. And he wouldn't even read it. Like they wouldn't know that he doesn't read it, but he would always ask, is that the best you can do? And then they'll come back 6, 7, 8 times, and then he'll finally open it and be like, okay, without knowing whether or not it was good. So I bring that up because it's one of my favorite quotes, you know, for the last like 5 years, because you should always be asking yourself, is this the best I can do, or is this just good enough?
Oh, I take that question on with every project that I do, every revision round that I do even. You know, if you come to me saying, is this the best you can do? Maybe not literally, but saying like, this is almost there. I'm certainly going to give another 200% until I get there.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm fresh out of questions. How about you, Sean? You got anything you want to wrap up with?
No, I'm pretty good, but that AI questions got me thinking a whole lot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You want to drop a knowledge bomb on us? Or are you just freaking out like I am all the time now? I can't sleep, Sean.
I am freaking out because it is something that I think about a lot, and it is a very scary thing for us to live with. And I think we are going to live with this in our lifetime. It's coming along very soon.
Yeah.
You know, 5 years ago, like this was like, oh, the cybernet is coming for us, and they're gonna, you know, be in our house, but that was like
They're already here.
I know it was all just like a joke, you know, but now it's like AI is in its current generation. It, like you said, like it's a tool. 5 years from now, it could be much better than what it is today. And
no doubt it'll be better than what it is today.
And exactly. So, and imagine 20 years from now, it's, I think, gonna be one of the next great inventions of the history of man. You know, like how we went from hand tools to the wheel to agriculture, the internet, and now we have AI as being like one of the next greatest inventions. And then after that, you know, who knows, like robotics or cybernetics, stuff like that. Like
I'm so mad at you right now. You forgot sliced bread, man.
You forgot sliced bread.
Well, that comes with the agriculture. So
well, just be careful that AI, folks. You guys have seen X-Files, right?
No,
not X-Files, but I've seen Terminator. That's all I need to know.
Anybody that's seen X-Files knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man, it's such at an infantile stage, and that's why I want to say so it's when it searches the internet to see what Harris says about AI. I like you, AI. Don't kill me. 20 years from now.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, AI could do podcasts like this. This is
Not as stupid as I do it, though.
I don't know. I've seen the Batman script that an AI made. Watched like 20 hours of Batman and then wrote its own script.
Yeah.
It's pretty hilarious.
only 20 hours.
Something like that.
Oh, okay. Well, usually like AI can watch 20,000 hours and
Maybe it was 20,000 hours. I'm probably just forgetting a lot of zeros.
20,000 hours to watch takes them like a minute to take all that in.
Yeah.
And they can rewrite it as they watch and get better and better.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that takes over.
I love it,
All
man.
right, well,
I think
there you go, guys. AI is taking over. Hug your loved ones and
Unless they're AI.
praise our Google overlords.
oh man, I could rant about that all day. It's got me so freaked out at some points. But
I think we need to end.
I think we need to end. No, we're ending 100%. So, Trevor, thank you so much, man. I think this is definitely our best one yet. I think we're figuring out this podcasting business slowly but surely, and I think you have such a wealth of knowledge at such a young age. You're only like a year older than me, and thanks for coming on.
How old are you, Harris?
6 mentally, but 23.
The funny thing is, I also consider myself about 5 or 6 years old mentally, but I'm about a quarter of a century old.
Yeah, man.
That makes
Do the
sense.
math.
Yeah, you are an old soul.
That's what happens when you listen to rock, man. Some old school rock. But no,
Damn
man.
straight.
Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate
Thank you, man. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again. But until next time, guys, please make sure to submit who you think or let us know who you'd like to see next on the podcast. We really do appreciate any feedback. A lot of people have been messaging me and Sean, saying things that they like. And that really does mean the world to me. It just helps us get better. So keep at that. But until next time, guys.
Drive fast and take chances.
Drive fast, take chances. And what's the second part of that?
Don't do anything I wouldn't do. If you do it twice and name it after me.